Thank you for being here today for this major announcement. I'm joined today by members of the Louisiana legislature. Actually, Senator Bob Henskins is stuck on the interstate, but he's on his way to trying to join us today. But we have representatives from the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, representatives from Louisiana Mid-Continent Oil and Gas from the Gulf Coast Economic Team. That's right, Lori. Thank you for being here as well. And then, of course, our Solicitor General, Liz Murrell. Make no mistake about it, the executive orders that the president has issued since being inaugurated are killing American jobs and destroying the middle class. No other industry in America has created more middle class jobs than the oil and gas industry. And what does it get in rewards for making America great? It gets demonized along with the workers who provide our energy. When seeking the Democrat Party nomination for president, Joe Biden made no secret of his disdain for domestic energy development. During a March 2020 Democrat presidential candidate debate, Joe Biden said no new fracking, no more drilling on federal lands. Of course, he stepped back from that comment when he realized that those comments would hurt his chances for getting elected in key swing states. He then tried, in backtracking, clarified that instead he intended to ban new permits for oil and gas drilling on federal land and offshore. But it took Joe Biden only 7 days in the Oval Office to confirm that neither the law nor the loss of thousands of jobs and billions in environmental benefits would stop him from keeping his campaign promise, a promise that he broke to the American people. On January 27, 2021, Joe Biden issued Executive Order 14008. Among other things, this overreach imposed a ban on all oil and gas drilling lease activities on public lands and offshore waters, unraveling a long-standing statutory scheme and destroying states' reliance interests, completely ignoring the law. By an executive fiat, President Biden has not only conceded American leadership to foreign countries, but he has also doomed American jobs and increased the cost of energy. Has anyone seen the price at the pump lately? There is no unity in Joe Biden's plan that is destroying thousands of families' livelihoods, leaves the working poor without the means to fuel their cars or to heat their homes. And then he concedes our energy policy and national security to the whims of other countries. So we are and will continue to fight back, which brings us to today. This morning, on behalf of the state of Louisiana, I filed a suit against the Biden administration for effectively banning oil and gas activity that supports businesses, employs our workers, and also, as importantly, funds our coastal restoration projects. I was joined in this legal action by the Attorney Generals of Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Georgia, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, Utah, and West Virginia. Collectively, these 13 states are fighting to open an opening salvo of Joe Biden's declared war on America's oil and gas workers. The Biden executive order halted all oil and gas leasing operations days after the Interior Department halted the development and exploration on existing leases. Together, these actions make up what we call the Biden Plan, or Biden Ban, an aggressive, reckless abuse of presidential power that threatens our families, livelihoods, and our national security. The Biden Ban purports to protect the environment. However, it constitutes what is likely the single largest divestment of revenue for environmental protection plans. Here again, listen closely. His ban basically puts in jeopardy environmental protection plans and projects. What's more importantly, this ban arbitrarily exempts tribes that the land and trust from onshore, on the land and trust and onshore ban. So again, this Biden ban now, we see a pattern, picks winners and losers. So it's okay for drilling to occur on Native American lands, but it's not okay for Americans to be able to drill on federal lands, completely contradicting the administration's alleged environmental concerns. Now look, I've always said that drilling equals jobs, and that is especially true here in Louisiana. Here in the Bayou State, our economy and government depend on a robust development and refinement of oil and gas resources. Nearly 250,000 Louisiana jobs depend on the oil and gas industry, generating billions in wages and tax revenue that support our families, communities, and our coast. Protection and restoration projects depend on mineral leasing, activities on the outer continental shelf, creating a lifeline between the industry and our coast. And the Biden administration just took a hacksaw to those projects. While President Biden cannot keep his promise on tax rates and stimulus payments, he is certainly keeping his promise to put Americans out of work. The Biden plan fails under the law, and it fails to account for the environmental benefits of producing domestic energy under one of the most stringent and detailed regulatory frameworks in the world. It fails to account for the environmental detriments like shipping oil across the globe instead of leveraging our existing pipeline infrastructure. It fails our national interest in having a robust capacity for domestic production of oil and gas, and against being beholden to foreign cartels and to rogue countries. And these failures are growing each and every day. Every crew member who would have worked in a new field now goes another day with fewer opportunities. Every barrel left in the ground means American producers are less competitive, and Louisiana businesses are more at risk. Every dollar of royalty left on the table means another day we go without the crucial funds necessary to protect Louisiana's coast. I've always stood against federal overreach, from the Clean Power Plan to the onerous consent decrees. This office has stood firm against the abuses of federal authority that serve to harm our job creators and those seeking employment. And we have stood together behind Louisiana workers. Joe Biden is, of course, taking this playbook right out of his old boss's playbook. And this office is ready, along with the attorney generals who joined me today, to battle back against that. We will not stand idly by while our friends and our neighbors and their families watch their jobs and their communities suffer. We will continue to fight for the future of Louisiana and the rule of law. Today, that fight comes front and center to the White House from Louisiana. Next, I would like to introduce Representative Blake Miguez to say a few words. Blake?
Thank you, Jeff. First of all, I want to thank you all for joining us here today, and I want to thank the Attorney General for taking a stance to defend Louisiana working families in our oil and gas industry. A legislator from South Louisiana, myself being from the Acadiana area, this is the lifeblood of our economy, and someone needs to stand strong for these families that are working hard and have been through struggles over the last 6 years. The Biden ban immediately impacts and harms Louisiana by reducing revenues and royalties from federal oil and gas leases in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's some statistics I want to give to you and let them sink in for a second. The BOEM's most recent GOM leasing sale conducted in November 2020 generated over $120 million in bids, which could generate up to $19 million in GOMESA funds for Louisiana. The cancellation of the lease 257 and the suspension of sale 259 and 261 will reduce Louisiana's GOMESA funding by up to $17 million. This ban on new leasing and drilling will deprive Louisiana of GOMESA funding for the Coastal Master Plan, and most importantly for my area, critical hurricane protection funds and projects. These projects protect our coast and protect the people who live there. These jobs provide food to put on the table of Louisiana working families and are the lifeblood of our coastal communities. In 2019, energy-based manufacturing accounted for $6.8 billion in wages, representing 48% of Louisiana's manufacturing wages. It's clear that President Biden has targeted our oil and gas industry that could destroy thousands of jobs here in Louisiana. API recently released a report that an extended drilling ban would impact the Gulf Coast, which would be the hardest hit with an estimated 48,000 jobs that would go away by 2022. In 2018, the oil and gas industry accounted for roughly 250,000 jobs and contributed more than $73 billion in Louisiana's economy. Oil and gas production benefits every American, and supporting it should not be a partisan issue. The industry delivers good paying and accessible jobs in Louisiana, lowers greenhouse gas emissions, and funding for conservation, outdoor and recreational programs, rebuilding our coast, and rebuilding and improving parks in urban, underprivileged communities across this nation. I encourage every elected official, including our governor, to make a stand and defend the oil and gas industry here in Louisiana. It's an imperative that President Biden understands the importance to our state's economy and to Louisiana families that it supports. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate the ability to talk on this issue. Thanks.
Next, I would like to bring up Lori LeBlanc. This is a woman who saw firsthand the crippling effects of a drilling moratorium back in 2010, and now understands the effect of a constructive drilling moratorium on Louisiana and the effects that it has. Lori?
Thank you. Good morning. As the Attorney General said, my name is Lori LeBlanc. I'm the Executive Director of the Gulf Economic Survival Team, who represents the hundreds of thousands of hardworking middle-class Americans who go to work every single day in support of the industry that literally fuels America. I want to thank the Attorney General today for his bold action against the Biden administration, who believes we can just merely flip a switch to new energy resources without taking into consideration the impacts it will have on states like Louisiana, on our communities, and most importantly, the men and women who depend on a robust energy industry to earn a good living, to put dinner on the table at night, and to go to work each and every day. The oil and gas industry has a $70 billion impact to the state of Louisiana. The oil and gas industry is part of the energy transition. However, transition to new energy resources should be smart and should be strategic, and it should engage critical stakeholders like the state of Louisiana. Excuse me. While the oil and natural gas industry shares the administration's desire to tackle climate change and reduce emissions, halting domestic energy development in one of the lowest carbon in the world is not the answer. That move will shift production and capital investment overseas, and it will undermine decades of environmental progress. The federal government's lease sale ban will have a ripple effect on our economy that reaches communities that depend on energy production for economic stability. In addition, the revenues from oil and gas activity in the Gulf of Mexico fund critical restoration and hurricane protection projects. These projects protect our unique culture, our unique way of life, and they make our Gulf Coast communities stronger and safer. We must invest in America's offshore resources, not halt development that will increase our dependence on foreign energy sources and threaten America's energy independence. And so once again, I thank the Attorney General for his bold action today, and I thank you all.
Thank you, Laura. And now I'd like to bring up a good friend of mine, Mike Monclon, who has been fighting to save oil and gas jobs for a long, long time. It's something that he's passionate about. He's with the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. Mike, thank you, Jeff.
Yes, my name is Mike Monclon, I represent the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. I want to thank the Attorney General Landry for your leadership on this important issue. At the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, we represent energy producers of our great state. Our members are fantastic men and women who go to work every day to bring affordable, reliable fuels and byproducts to the world, and quite frankly, make modern life possible. These federal actions are supposedly for environmental reasons, yet this ban would completely gut the funding for Louisiana's coastal restoration projects. According to the National Ocean Industries Association, the Gulf of Mexico supports 345,000 jobs throughout the United States and 94,000 Gulf of Mexico jobs from Louisiana. None of this is good for our state, and we look forward to smart policy. At the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, we believe we can walk and chew gum at the same time, meaning we believe we can work toward environmental progress while strengthening industry, not bringing it to its demise. Innovation above regulation. Thank you again, Attorney General Landry, for standing up for Louisiana and the hardworking oil and gas workers of our state.
Thank you, Mike. And now we'll take any questions. Yes, sir.
Hi, Attorney General Landry. So, obviously, there have been, over the years, no shortage of disagreements between yourself and, some Democrats, particularly in the legislature or, the governor's office. But do you get the sense that this is something that a lot of people on both sides of the aisle agree on at this point? Here in Louisiana?
Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope that here in Louisiana, regardless of whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I can pretty much guarantee that you have someone that you know or a family member that works in some oil and gas related job. And they would understand the danger that these actions have against those people who they know and the jobs that they love. And so my hope is that we could form a bipartisan group to support these types of actions.
I guess for Representative Miguez, legislative session coming up, is there anything here? I mean, this clearly goes far beyond Louisiana, but as far as what the state legislature can do in the meantime, any sort of ideas as we get into that session?
Well, there hadn't been any particular piece of legislation that's been filed yet on the issue. I commend Attorney General Landry. He's probably in the most unique position as the Attorney General to be able to file suits on behalf of the oil and gas industry. Obviously, he took action on the Keystone XL pipeline being shut down, which resulted in 11,000 people, or will result in 11,000 people losing their jobs in another portion of the country. We're fearful that will happen here today. I'm sure you heard some of the statistics. If this extended drilling ban stays in place for another year, like we've heard from the administration in D.C., it could cost 48,000 jobs by 2022. I can tell you, Senator Hinchkins, who's the chairman of the Natural Resources Committee in the Senate, was supposed to be here today. He represents the same area as I do, and a lot of the individuals in our area, they make their living two ways. They either work in the fields or they work on the oil fields. And it's one or the other. And I can tell you lately, over the last 6 years, our particular area has been just devastated due to the slowdown in the industry in general. The last thing that we need is to have policies coming out of D.C. that would finish this industry off. Our people are very resourceful in the oil and gas industry. I work in the industry myself. I can tell you they're very innovative. You asked if the legislature can do anything. We're going to do everything within our power to support the oil and gas industry, but we're a team. The Attorney General has taken action. Members in the oil and gas industry are taking action because we're very resilient people. We've survived hurricanes. We've survived moratoriums. We can survive drilling bans as well. But it's important that all of our elected leaders, both Republican and Democrat, stand up and send the message to Washington, and particularly the president in this scenario, since it's an executive order, and explain how important it is for Louisiana's economy. And I think our governor's in a great position to do that. I know he's very friendly with the administration, and so through some of our hearings that you saw in Louisiana, we had a joint natural resources hearing, both the House and the Senate. You saw that question that was very pointed towards the administration. Has the governor picked up the phone yet? I know he's sent some messages and some letters. I've read recently that he plans to meet with President Biden. I just encourage and implore our governor, go out there and fight for Louisiana. because this is hardworking families. This is how we put food on our table. This is how the people in my district survive and eat. So we'll do everything within our power.
All right, thank you. If we don't have any other questions, again, I just lastly say, to reiterate what Blake was saying, and Senator Henskins, who couldn't be here, is that this is a culmination of the Oversight Committee hearing that they had a month or so ago. And so they have asked us, the legislature has asked the Attorney General's office, through the Solicitor General's office, to take action against any federal policies that endanger Louisiana jobs. And that's what we're doing here today. I also would like to thank Liz and her team, who has worked tirelessly since that hearing to put together this suit and to join others that other states are involved in as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much.